I have tried for months to explain this without sounding insane, but there is no easy way to describe what happened on that bridge. I tell myself to start at the beginning to lay it out like a record, so anyone who reads this can follow and maybe see that I am not lying. Maybe someone else has seen what I saw and lived to write it down. The bridge is not far from my town, a plain stretch of concrete and steel over a river that barely flows anymore. The locals never talk about it in detail, but they all avoid it if they can. There are other routes, longer ones, but people choose them anyway. They say the bridge is cursed, though never to your face, only whispered when you pass by at night. I first became interested when I read about a missing persons case. A man driving home late from work was last seen heading across the bridge. His car was never found. They dragged the river. They searched the woods on both sides. Nothing, no debris, no signs of impact, just gone at first. I thought it was a normal case of someone vanishing on their own until I found there were dozens of reports like it spread out over years. Always the same detail, last seen on the bridge, and then nothing. I drove there during the day to see for myself. It looked harmless, a narrow 2-lane stretch fenced with rusted guardrails, paint-faded weeds pushing through cracks in the pavement. Nothing about it seemed dangerous. Cars passed over without issue while I stood at the side with my notebook. But even in daylight, I felt the air heavier than it should be, my chest tight, my head buzzing with a pressure like before a storm. I told myself it was nerves, but I noticed birds would not land on the rail. They circle high above, but never touch down. The first time I tried to cross that night, I felt foolish. My headlights caught the metal beams, the asphalt stretching into blackness. I half expected to see nothing at all, but empty road. Yet halfway across, I felt the shift. It was not the road moving, but something in the space itself. The sound of my tires dulled, as though I was driving through thicker air. My radio cut to static, and my dashboard lights flickered. I gripped the wheel tighter and pressed on until I reached the far side, where everything returned to normal. Still, I felt like something had pressed against me from all sides, a silent weight that left me shaking. That should have been enough to stop me, but it only pulled me deeper. I began to time my visits late at night, watching other drivers' crossings were rare past midnight. Yet sometimes I saw headlights approaching only to blink out halfway across, as if a switch had been thrown. Once I waited at the end of the bridge and watched a pickup truck vanish in the middle, not slow, not veering off the road, simply gone. Its headlights blinked out, and the space it occupied was empty. I ran forward, convinced it must have swerved, but there was nothing, no skid marks, no broken rail, no splash in the water. The night swallowed it. I did not sleep that night. I replayed the sight over and over. The truck had not crashed, it had been erased. When the sun rose, I returned again, searching for evidence. The bridge looked the same: cracked pavement, rusted bolts. I pressed my hand against the guardrail and felt it faintly vibrating, as if something moved beneath the metal. The river below was silent, no current, no ripples, just a black surface reflecting nothing. I leaned over and swore it seemed deeper than it should be, as though the water did not end where my eyes thought it should. I told myself it was a trick of exhaustion, but I had already begun to know the bridge was not a road at all. It was a passage, and something waited for anyone unlucky enough to be caught inside it. I should have walked away after seeing that truck vanish, but instead I kept returning like a moth drawn to a flame. Each visit seemed to strip something from me, yet I could not stop. The bridge lived in my head. Even when I was home, it was there. When I closed my eyes, when I tried to eat, when I tried to sleep, it hummed behind my thoughts and called me back. I began staying longer on the sides, hidden in the shadows, to watch who crossed it first. I thought maybe only some cars disappeared, but no pattern made sense. Sometimes one would pass, safely. Sometimes one would be swallowed. The time of night did not matter. The type of vehicle did not matter. I tried to chart at headlights, brightness, speed. Nothing lined up. The only thing I noticed was the silence that fell before happened. No crickets, no wind, just the hum of my ears growing stronger until the vehicle winked out of existence. The locals would not talk to me about it. When I asked the clerk at the gas station, she turned pale and told me to leave it alone. An old man sitting on the bench outside spat on the ground and said, "There are places the world forgets on purpose." I pressed for more, but he would not meet my eyes. I realized everyone already knew to stay away. They just chose not to admit it openly. One night I forced myself to walk across on foot. My chest hurt with every step, but I wanted to know if the bridge reacted differently to a person than to a car. The asphalt felt soft under my shoes, not like crumbling pavement, but like skin stretching beneath pressure. The guardrails seemed taller than before, as if they had grown while I walked. The river below was gone from view, swallowed by a blackness that was not water. My head spun, and I staggered forward until halfway across, when I felt it. There was something standing just ahead of me. It was not visible, but the air bent around it like heat shimmer. My eyes could not focus on it, but my body knew it was there, a figure blocking the path. I froze, every instinct screaming to turn back, yet when I blinked it was closer. Though I had not seen it move, the soundless pressure around me thickened, my heart pounding in my throat. I stumbled backward and then ran as fast as I could back to my car. I did not stop until I slammed the door and locked it. My breath came ragged, but when I looked at the bridge through the windshield, it was empty. Nothing stood there, nothing at all. I stayed away for a week after that. I tried to bury myself in work and pretend I had imagined it, but the dream started. I dreamed of cars lined bumper to bumper, trapped in endless black. Their headlights, weak beams swallowed by the dark figure, stood between them, unmoving, watching me. When I walked among them, I always woke with my skin cold as ice and the faint ringing of laughter in my ears. I bought a recorder to prove to myself I was not crazy. The next time I drove out to the bridge, I left it running on the passenger seat. The night was still. The bridge loomed silent as always. I drove slowly across, gripping so hard my knuckles cracked halfway. Across the dashboard, lights flickered. The static came back on the radio, and the pressure in my ears tightened. My breath caught when the hum turned into something else, not static, not air, but a voice, low and dragging, drawn out, like someone speaking from deep underwater. I could not understand the words, but I knew they were meant for me. I made it across and kept driving until I was back in town. My hand shook as I replayed the recorder, expecting silence. Instead, I heard it clearer. The static broke, and underneath a sound like laughter, weak and distant, yet unmistakable. I replayed it again and again, hoping it would fade, but it only grew sharper each time, as though the tape itself remembered more than I had heard. That was when I realized this was not only about cars disappearing. The bridge was feeding, taking people, vehicles, anything that crossed when the silence fell, and sometimes it let the sound of them slip back like echoes, trailing behind. Whatever lives inside that space between the lanes, it is aware of who crosses, and it does not forget. I have not told anyone what I recorded. I know they would not believe me, and worse, I fear playing it for another person would open a door that cannot be shut. The bridge is no longer just a place I investigate. It has noticed me now, and each night the laughter grows louder. I try to live normally after the recording, but normal life no longer seemed possible. Every quiet moment reminded me of that bridge. The hum lingered in my head like a ringing that never stopped. And when I tried to rest, it grew worse. I told myself it was stress or a lack of sleep, but deep down I knew it was more than that. I began hearing things outside my apartment. At first, it was faint, like footsteps in the hallway at night, but heavier than any normal step one night. I woke to the sound of tires rolling slowly past my window, but when I looked out there was nothing there, just the empty street, dim under the lamps, yet the sound kept going, circling the block until dawn the next morning. I found faint tire marks on the pavement, wet with dew, but they led nowhere, vanishing into the air. I tried to throw away the recorder, thinking that would sever the tie I had made. I left it in a dumpster miles from my apartment, yet the next night it was back, sitting neatly on my kitchen counter with the tape already queued up. My hand shook as I press play. The laughter came instantly louder then, before echoing as if in a tunnel. I stopped it and dropped the thing to the floor, but I swear I still heard the sound long after it was off. By now I knew I had to return to the bridge. Avoiding it only seemed to make the presence stronger. It was like ignoring an infection that spread when untreated. So I drove back against every rational thought. My hands sweated on the wheel as the road bent toward the familiar curve where the bridge started. The silence fell again, quicker this time, as though it had been waiting for me. The trees leaned in close, blocking the stars, and the asphalt stretched longer than it should have. I tried to keep my speed steady, but the air grew thick, like I was driving underwater. Halfway across, I saw them parked along the shoulder, cars, trucks, even a bus, all dark but intact, their windows black like blind eyes. I slowed down, my stomach dropping. They were the missing ones, each vehicle swallowed by the bridge over the years, now gathered here, waiting. My headlights caught movement among them, shadows sliding between doors, tall thin shapes that did not walk so much as glide closer with each flicker of light. I gripped the wheel, ready to floor it, but then I saw something that made my blood freeze. The driver of the first truck leaned out. His face was pale and his mouth stretched wide. His eyes did not move, yet his lips curved into a smile too large for a human face. He raised one hand slowly and waved at me. I slammed the gas and shot forward. My car rattled, and the wheel jerked in my hands as if the road wanted to throw me off. The figures closed in from both sides, their heads twisting too far to follow me. Their laughter rose high around me, not faint this time, but close, raw, and real. I broke through the other side of the bridge, and the night snapped back to normal. The hum was gone, the stars clear, the air light again. But I knew they had seen me, and they would not forget. When I returned home, I found the tape recorder sitting on my doorstep. It was not mine. I had left mine in pieces on my apartment floor before driving out, but this one was whole and clean, as if brand new. I brought it inside against my better judgment and pressed play. The sound that came was not laughter this time. It was my voice recorded in a strained whisper, saying, "Do not stop next time. Do not resist." I dropped it and left it playing, the words repeated over and over, though I only said them once at least. I thought I had the voice was definitely mine, yet lower, slower, filled with a calm that made my stomach. Not the bridge is not just a place, it is an opening, a feeding ground, and it knows me now, not just as an observer, but as a participant. I am beginning to wonder if the missing drivers are not gone at all. Maybe they're still there, waiting in the dark lanes between what we call real and what waits below. Maybe that is what the smiles mean. And I fear one night I will not make across. I could not avoid the bridge anymore. The humming followed me everywhere. Even in crowded places, I would hear it beneath the chatter and footsteps in grocery stores, at work. Even when someone spoke directly to me, it pressed through like a second voice. I thought about moving far away, but in my gut I knew distance would not matter. It was tied to me. Now sleep became impossible. I dreamed of endless highways, stacked one above another like veins under skin, stretching into blackness with no horizon. The cars that had disappeared drifted, their headlights dim, fogging against a wall of shadow. They never moved forward, but they were never still either. It was as though they were stuck between two motions, repeating the same half inch forever, their windows reflected faces pale wide-eyed, mouths twitching with something like laughter, though no sound reached me in those dreams. I always felt a hand touch my shoulder from behind, but I never turned to see. One evening, I decided to walk back across the bridge on foot. I do not know why, maybe to prove to myself I still had some control. I carried no recorder, no camera, just my body and the pounding in my chest. The air grew cold, the silence dropped, and I knew it was waiting for me. The pavement flexed under my shoes again, but heavier than before, like I was stepping on a living lung. Each breath I took made the asphalt rise and fall, as if the bridge breathed with me halfway across. I felt the presence ahead again, the figure that bent the air, its outline clearer this time, tall and crooked, head tilted too far to the side. My skin stung, as though every pore opened in warning. I stepped back, but the bridge stretched with me. I realized then it did not matter if I ran. The crossing was not measured in feet or yards, but in submission something shifted, and I was no longer standing on asphalt. The world folded around me, and the guardrails melted into black walls. I was inside that place, the one from my dreams. The cars lined both sides, endless rows, their bodies pristine, but their insides full of stillness. Their headlights flickered dimly like dying stars. The shadows moved between them faster than before. They twisted long and thin, and their faces rippled as if they were made from stretched skin. One of them stopped inches from me and leaned forward. Its mouth opened impossibly wide, but no sound came out, only the vibration of laughter inside my skull. I stumbled back, pressing against the car door. It was warm like flesh, not metal. When I looked inside, the driver seat was filled by a body slumped forward. But when its head lifted, I saw my own face staring back, mouth curled into a broken grin. My legs gave way, but the shadow lifted me, its hands cold and slick as oil. It pressed me against the glass of the car window and whispered, though no mouth moved, the words were inside me. You are already part of this. I shut my eyes and screamed, though no sound left my throat. When I opened them, I was standing again on the far side of the bridge, my clothes damp, as if soaked in fog. My heart felt bruised inside my chest. I do not remember how I got there, but I staggered back to my car and drove home, swerving the whole way that night. The recorder was waiting again on my kitchen table. I had not taken it with me, but there was the tape spun by itself, and what I heard broke something in me. It was not laughter, not my voice, not static. It was the sound of my own footsteps on the bridge, repeating endlessly, as though I had never stopped walking, never escaped. I have started to notice small things missing from my apartment, not big things, not furniture, but details. A photo frame with no picture, a book with blank pages, a mug with no handle. It is like pieces of my life are being erased, quietly and carefully, as if making room for something else. And the worst part is I'm beginning to feel that laughter inside me, not around me, but inside. My jaw aches at night, and my lips twitch in my sleep. I wake with the taste of iron in my mouth and the echo of smile I do not remember. Making the bridge is no longer just a place I visit. It is becoming me. I no longer pretend that I can live outside the reach of the bridge. It has followed me into every corner of my existence, and I feel the pull more strongly each day. At first, it was only sounds, the humming, the laughter, the faint echo of tires rolling across pavement. Now, it is sights and smells. I catch glimpses of headlights flickering against my walls, though my windows are closed. I smell the damp reek of asphalt soaked in rain, though my apartment is Dry feel the steering wheel under my palms when I wake. Even though I'm not in my car, the people around me have started to notice, but not in the way I expected. They do not ask if I am okay. They do not look at me at all. Their eyes slide past me. As though I am not there, my boss no longer calls me into meetings. My neighbors no longer greet me in the hall. I stand beside them, and they do not flinch, but it is as if they cannot quite register my presence, as if I am already less real. I drove to the bridge one final time, though I knew this time there would be no return. I told myself it was to face it, but the truth is it called, and I obeyed. The silence was waiting thick and absolute. The moment I stepped onto the asphalt, I felt the ground pulse with recognition. It was not merely a structure, it was alive, a wound in the skin of the world that never healed. Halfway across, the cars appeared again, stretching in endless rows, both directions. Their headlights glowed weakly, their hoods gleamed slick with a moisture that smelled of iron. The air bent around me in waves, and from the shadows the figures came, but they did not approach me like before. They surrounded me in a wide circle, their heads tilting in unison. As though waiting, I realized then that they were not the ones in control. They were remnants, echoes flung loose from the true hunger that waited in the dark. The road beneath me opened without sound. Asphalt peeled back like skin, splitting to reveal a deeper blackness beneath, and from it came the vibration of laughter, not faint this time, not distant, but thunderous inside my bones. I fell to my knees, my teeth rattling as the hum grew until it became a voice without words but filled with command. It told me I had crossed enough times, that the choice was no longer mine. It had already written me into itself. The cars began to move, though their engines never started. Their wheels turned silently, and they slid forward one after another, vanishing nose first into the open wound in the road. The drivers turned their faces toward me as they passed, every one of them smiling with cracked lips and empty eyes. I saw children pressed against back seat windows, mothers, fathers, workers, all of them still alive, but bound to that endless grin. Their hands tapped faintly against the glass, not for help, but in rhythm with the hum, like they were keeping time. I tried to run, but every step carried me forward, not back. My legs moved, but the road stretched. I was trapped in an unending loop. Each time I passed another set of cars and shadows and laughter, until I could no longer tell if I was walking or being dragged. The last thing I remember clearly is looking into one of the car windows and seeing myself again, not slumped this time, but smiling wide. My reflection raised its hand and beckoned me forward with a twitching gesture of welcome. The moment my palm pressed against the glass, my body dissolved into cold, weightless silence. I do not know how much time has passed since I crossed fully. There is no day or night here, only the endless highway stacked above and below, with streams of vehicles frozen in half motion. The faces in the windows turn as I pass them, and their mouths stretch wide to match mine. I feel the bridge breathing through me, every hum, every pulse syncing with my own heart. My laughter joins theirs, though I do not move my lips. The sound is inside me, now permanent, and still the cars from above keep arriving. Each time a driver vanishes from your world, they appear here, their headlights flickering weakly before dimming forever. The road feeds, and we welcome them, one more voice to join the laughter. If you ever drive that bridge at night and the silence falls, do not slow down, do not look to the sides, do not listen to the hum, because once it notices you, once it remembers your shape, there is no leaving, only the endless drive and the laughter that never ends. I'm no longer writing this to warn you, because it is already too late. I can hear your footsteps now, faint, but growing stronger. You have read too far, and the bridge has noticed you too. The next time you close your eyes, you will hear the silence, the hum, the laughter, and when you open them, you will be here with me. Welcome to the other side.